popular here.
Hi.
It's okay. Well, they're not, well, yeah, they're very distantly related, and the venom from the American funnel web spider, which I'm studying, is innocuous, while that of the Sydney funnel web spider could kill you. So I'm currently working on producing these toxins, and once I get that down, I'm going to study their structure and function, and that's what my whole Fulbright project is about.
So Sabrina was in your guys' position 2 years ago when she started the application, but she actually was looking at this opportunity for a couple of years. So she was really fun to work with. And my other partner in this whole process is Jennifer Kavetsky, who works in the Academic Resource Center. And she is fabulous at helping to craft your essays and really refine them, because this is going to be the core of your application, is those essays. Convincing the committees that you have a strong plan, that you meet all of the requirements of what the host country is looking for. One of the things you'll learn from this presentation is that every country is looking for something different. So you have to make sure that you have the profile that they're looking for, because you're going to invest a lot of time into putting this application together, and we want to be sure that you are picking the country where you're most competitive for. So Jennifer, would you like to introduce yourself?
Jennifer said that she had to make a phone call and she would be back. Is she back?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw her leave on the phone.
Okay. I can't get the video from everyone else. I'm a little blind here, but I've got the chat up. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and then when Jennifer comes, we'll have her introduce herself, and hopefully we can have enough time to give a little bit of, there we go. Time for questions, but again, use the chat feature and we will go from there. So the Fulbright program. One of the core elements of this program is that the mission is to foster mutual understanding between nations, advance knowledge across communities, and improve lives around the world. So again, you want to identify a country that you want to go to and think about what is it that you're going to be contributing to them, but most importantly, what are you bringing to the table? How are your experiences or skills going to complement the award? So that's a lot of what is going to be asked of you in your applications. There's primarily 3 award opportunities. One is to teach English in almost 250 countries. So that's available to you, or you can conduct research. And the research starts off feeling a little more complicated because you have to make a connection with whomever you're going to do research in that host country with. But there's less candidates applying for that because it's so specific. But again, we're going to go over that. In this slide, you'll see that basically the Fulbright was created in 1946 in honor of Senator William Fulbright from Arkansas. And he, after World War II, he realized that it was very important for us to really understand other cultures so that we could better have relationships with them and ensure that there was peace in the world. So this was the focus of getting people to go to foreign countries and really absorb those cultures and use that in whatever their future careers are. So that's another thing you should keep in mind as you're preparing your application. So the program that we're going to be talking about is the U.S. student program. And this is where the awards that I just mentioned are offered. One of the important things with Fulbright, many years ago, this used to be an opportunity that lots of students from the East Coast and Ivy League schools would apply to. Their focus now is that they want to diversify it. They want to show the representation of the United States. The U.S. is very diverse, so they want that to be reflected in the people that they're sending there. They don't want to just send Caucasian Ivy League men. So women, people of different ethnicities, gender, everything is open. So that's important, and that's something that you want to incorporate into your essays. So eligibility. The program that I'm talking about is for students that are graduating or have graduated. Graduate students can also apply, but they work with Hillary Jenks in grad division. I work with all undergrads or people that have recently graduated from the university and have not entered a graduate program. So that's one piece. It's open to you from the point that you graduate from your undergraduate all the way up until you receive a PhD. So there have been people that have been in their 70s that get a Fulbright. So it's always available to you. You must be a US citizen. You have to have your bachelor's degree by the time you go to the program. This is very similar to applying to graduate school. You're going to apply. Basically, our campus deadline is in August. You're applying the summer before you start your senior year. And it takes about 6 to 8 months for them to decide. So we'll go over that. But again, if you're thinking about doing this, it's when you're applying a year in advance of when you're going to go. As I mentioned, the program has three primary programs. They will fund you to study abroad. They will fund you to conduct research or to go teach in a foreign country when you're teaching English. I have a video I want to show, so to give you an overview of what Fulbright is. So let's see if this works with me.
Fulbright is adventurous, an incredible experience, a really key part of American diplomacy.
The true purpose of it is to create mutual understanding. It's rigorous.
It's what you make of it.
Fulbright is this incredible resource.
You don't know how much you're capable of until you're put in certain situations.
It gets you comfortable with the uncomfortable.
It really changes your identity. It gives you a new perspective.
I see it as a chance to have a big adventure.
You embrace those hardships, you make it your own.
Fulbright is an academic cultural exchange program.
It's for Americans doing study, research, or teaching English for roughly an academic year.
I did my Fulbright in a small Pacific Island country called Kiribati.
I went to London,
To Malaysia,
Belgium, Senegal,
Jordan,
Cambodia,
India,
Singapore.
the Galapagos in Ecuador.
When I went to Trinidad, my research focused on girls in a juvenile detention center.
Trying to fight hunger and malnutrition in Ethiopia.
studied high-speed aerodynamics at a small research laboratory outside of Brussels.
Focusing on trivalent chromium and type 2 diabetes.
Working with researchers to understand the impacts from plastic pollution.
taught 5th through 8th grade students conversational English.
The whole point of my project is to create empathy and understanding and respect for Kiribati people.
It's a life-changing experience.
It's not just your grant year. Fulbright is lifetime.
Fulbright is for everyone. So that means that Fulbright is also for you.
Okay, so I hope that gives you a little bit of a sense of what Fulbright is. It's an amazing program, and we're going to go through the whole process to apply. Oops. Sorry about that. I think it's starting another one.
Are you sharing a video right now?
No, I was trying to get back to the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, because I thought I heard something in the background, so I was like, we can't see the video. I'm sorry.
So let's, okay, come on. Sorry, guys. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Get back to the PowerPoint. Okay, you guys see the PowerPoint now?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so that kind of gave you a sense of the different award opportunities that Fulbright offers. The benefits are that they will pay for your round trip airfare. They give you a stipend to live off of, accident and health insurance. Sometimes they have opportunities for you to take coursework, so they'll pay for tuition. There's language lessons. Sometimes they will even pay for dependents. And the dependents piece varies by country, so you'll have to see what the country pays. After the award, you also have an opportunity to network with the Fulbright alumni. Many people go on to high-level positions where that international experience really benefits them. You can also use the State Department's alumni website, and you also have your non-competitive eligibility. So to be hired within the State Department, you bypass some of the requirements. And also participating in the Lifetime Fulbright Association. So there's lots of benefits, there's lots of connections you can make. Okay, the application components. So the application has small essays. One of them is an abstract of what is your project or what is it you're wanting to do. The next thing is your host country engagement. And this is something that in whatever application you're putting together, you want to think about how are you going to immerse yourself into the country. So I always call it an immersion project. So thinking about what are the things that you are passionate about that maybe you can share and that brings in that American culture to that community. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then also thinking about how does Fulbright complement your future goals? You know, this is an exciting opportunity, but more long-term. How are you going to be able to use this Fulbright experience in your long-term career goals? How will you connect with that country that you've spent a year in? So that's another element you should think about. Essays. You have a statement of grand purpose. And one of the things that I want to share with you is that I'm happy that you're here and you're learning about Fulbright now. I hope that you will start working on your application and essays, because these are, you're going to dig deeply into yourself to try and tell them why it is that you're the best candidate for this opportunity. And so the sooner that you start, the easier it will be. I think Sabrina can attest to how long it took her to write these essays and how many essays she did and how different they were from when she started to that final product. I'm going to go over these pieces, and then it's going to feel like there's a lot of writing. The challenge is that you have very little space to say a lot about yourself. So this is where we come in and help you. If you're doing a research or study application, you have 2 pages for your statement of grand purpose. For your English teaching, you have 1 page. And you have a personal statement that's maxed at 1 page also. You're going to need letters of recommendation. For both awards, you need 3 letters of recommendation. This is really important because the letters of recommendation either are going to support things that you're saying, but more importantly, they're going to bring in new information. So you should be asking for people who really know you and can attest to how valuable you will be as a Fulbrighter. What are the things that they've learned about you, whether it's in your academics or in your research or just on a personal basis, that they can say that you embody what Fulbright wants. So we can talk. I'm very good at helping you to identify who would be your best letter writers, how to ask them to say certain things about you. And as we pull your story together, saying, you know what, it might be better for somebody else to say this for you instead of you adding it to your essay because you need more room to say something else. So again, myself and Jennifer can help with those aspects. But again, you have to invest a lot of time into your writing. Depending on the award, some countries will ask that you have a language proficiency. So either this is something that you demonstrate in your transcripts, or if you're a native speaker, then they will ask for a foreign language evaluation. So this is country specific, so you'll need to see if whatever you want to apply to requires this. The other thing is, if you're doing research, there's an additional letter of affiliation. And that is you connecting with somebody at that host country that's going to write a letter that says you have a fantastic idea, whatever it is you're trying to pull together. They will either allow you to come and do research in their laboratory, or they will connect you based on what organization they belong to allow you to conduct research. Or let's say you're looking at archives, they'll open the doors to you to do that. So those are the main pieces, your transcripts. And sometimes if you're doing work in the arts, they will want to see your portfolio. Sabrina, can I ask you to say a few things about your experience in putting this application together and how much time you spent doing this?
It took quite a long time. I think how I first started off was I stared at my computer wondering how to start off, and then I just half awake just started typing anything that came to mind. And then from then on, Gladis and Jennifer helped mold this mush into something structured and good enough for submission of Fulbright. I think the hardest part, though, for most people was trying to find someone who would be willing to carry out this research with you with. I got lucky. What I did was I just asked my supervisor, and he used to study a lot of spider toxins in the past. And so he mentioned 2 people to me. And then I reached out to one, but I think so I think the best resource that you have is to ask your supervisor and see who are the best people to go to. But even that, it's pretty hard and difficult to try to get a positive response from that person that you reached out to. I think that might be the hardest part, rather than generating your personal statement and your statement of grant purpose. And the hardest part also, the second hardest part, was keeping my statement of grant purpose to 2 pages. You'll find out when you're writing it that you could definitely fill out maybe 6 pages of information, and you really just gotta make it super concise and keep it to 2.
Jennifer has joined us. Jennifer, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, so sorry about that. I'm back. So my name is Jennifer Kavetsky, and it sounds like you guys have mentioned me a couple times. So I run the writing support program at the ARC, which we help with all sorts of writing things, including essays for prestigious scholarships. So one thing we do is we work with prospective Fulbright applicants to draft these personal statements, to draft these statements of grant purpose, kind of getting them to reflect you and meeting the requirements. And we go through a lot of drafts. I think Sabrina totaled it up for me once. So one small thing we do have to clarify is my office is different than Gladys' office. So my office is not able to work with alumni. So we can't provide writing support to alumni, but Gladys is separate. She can still work with alumni. So if you're graduating in June, this is gonna be a little tricky, but you don't have to be currently enrolled in classes to work with us. So if you're taking classes now in the spring and you're gonna take classes in the fall, you can work with us over the summer. You just can't be graduated. But we enjoy working. There's myself and my colleague, Jay Spencer. We love working with the Fulbrighters and learning about all the different stuff you guys do. And then, you get to go to Australia. We get very excited.
Yes. Fulbright is fabulous, and we've been very happy in having many of our students get this award. So again, they look at your application in a holistic manner. They want to learn about you and what is it that you're going to contribute. So this is where your essays are going to be very important, in you being able to communicate why you're the most ideal person to go to this host country, why you're passionate about whatever project you're proposing, what experiences have you had that make you a person that when you land in that country, you're going to hit the ground running. So again, Jennifer and I are here to help you to convey that in your application. So factors in the selection process, quality and feasibility of your proposal. So this is really important in that you need to be able to articulate what is it that you want to do there. If you're doing a research project, why is that project important? What is that question that you have? Why do you have to do it in that country? So being able to articulate the methodology. How is this research going to be done? What are your outcomes? And is it something that can be accomplished in, depending on your grant award, 9 months, a year. Some of them might be shorter. So also keeping that in mind. They look at your academic record. The better GPA is fantastic, but don't be dissuaded if you don't have, you know, 4.0. Students with GPAs that are 3.0 or 2.8 can get it because they're looking at what can you bring. So maybe there are experiences that you've had, or maybe there was something that happened in your academic career early on that hinders your GPA, but maybe later on, once you identify the major that you're really passionate about, you can show that you have an upward trajectory, that you've done really well in those courses in the major, and that your project aligns with what your passions are. So they're also going to be looking at what are your leadership service experiences. For teaching, you don't necessarily have to have had a teaching experience, but if you were a tutor or if you led clubs, what leadership can you demonstrate? The other thing is they're sending you to a foreign country. They want someone who's going to be flexible. You need to be able to demonstrate that if you are sent off to Australia, Sabrina is, what, 18 hours difference from us? Probably an 18-hour flight also. So if she gets homesick, she can't just get on a plane and come home. So they want to know that you are really invested in being in this remote place. Also, language preparation. Not all countries require a language, but if they do, you need to be able to demonstrate that you have that. Let's see. And most importantly, the Fulbright is funded by the US, but also by that host country. So whatever project you're coming up with, you need to understand the culture of that country. Is this something that they're interested in learning? Because as I'll tell you later on, you're first selected by the US as some of the top candidates, and you're sent to the host country where they select who it is that actually makes it there. So if you're proposing a project that, for example, is critical of that government, they may not be too inclined to fund you. So again, this is something that Jennifer and I can help you look at. And again, the diversity, bringing in, what is it that you're bringing to the table? How is it that, you know, maybe you being a female in engineering, that's diverse. Or maybe an African-American student who knows Spanish and wants to go and immerse herself into a Spanish-speaking country. So think about all of those factors. Okay, so how will you stand out? You need to be able to show that you can have a positive impression of the US, because you, in a sense, are an ambassador. So that's another thing that they're looking for. You need to show that you're genuinely interested in the other cultures. So maybe talking about your affiliation with clubs here or communities of that country that you want to go to. History, we had a student whose family heritage was from Germany. So she talked about why she wanted to go there to kind of find her roots, and there were things that she knew about her culture, but not to the extent of if she were to go and live there. So that was one way where she approached it. And again, how is Fulbright going to enhance your ability to serve as an international ambassador? Once you're a Fulbrighter for life. So think about how that is going to be affiliated with the career path you're hoping to pursue. Jennifer, do you want to add anything to these components?
Keep forgetting I muted myself. So this can all seem a little intimidating when you're trying to think about all that, but this is actually one of the reasons Gladys and I are here. Gladys is really good at kind of helping you think through how you can show these things and how you can kind of talk about them. And then myself and my colleague, we can kind of figure out how to get it in your essay in a way that seems natural, right? The previous one we had with the family heritage in Germany, originally it was just this kind of random story, but we worked on kind of making it so it flowed better because it was important to her application that that was in there. So we kind of figured out how to do that.
Sabrina, do you have anything to share?
I think it's really important to mention when you're trying to show that how you're going to send out and be a great ambassador is to research the university or the institution or the agency that you're going to, and maybe look around some other clubs that you can get associated with, so that you could, again, not only just have to do research or do work, but you also try to involve yourself into the culture and the community and try to also make yourself stand out more, which is what I did. Unfortunately, I couldn't carry that out because of COVID, but that's a really important part of your application as well. And they also emphasize that when I've gone to Fulbright meetings, they say, go outside, don't just stay in the lab. You should immerse yourself in your country, and you need to talk about how you're going to do that.
Yeah, and Sabrina is a perfect example in that she made contact with the faculty at the university she wanted to go to. She spoke to the grad students. She started to get a sense of the culture, so she was able to incorporate that into her essays. And again, this is something that Jennifer and I can help you with. Okay, timeline. So the Fulbright application opened in April and will be available through September. And this is the time period where you are working on your application, thinking about how are you going to answer these essays, refining them, working with your letter of recommendation writers. If you're trying to do a research project, trying to identify who can be that person who writes that letter of affiliation. Something that we want to tell you is that if you're trying to do in Europe, a lot of people take vacation starting June through August, and they don't answer emails. So if you're trying to get a letter of affiliation, they're not around. So thinking about that and trying to reach out to them sooner rather than later, that's going to be really important. Also, we have two major deadlines. So your Fulbright application has to go through my office, and I'm the one who officially submits you. So in order to be considered for this application, your first deadline that you need to keep in mind is August 15th. By August 15th, you need to have your whole application put together, all of your essays, your letters of recommendation. If there's a letter of affiliation, that needs to be in place. If there is a language evaluation, that needs to be in place. So between August 24th and probably September 11th, we conduct on-campus interviews. And the interviews are staffed by staff and faculty who are either from those host countries or have some familiarity with the project that you're putting on or the topic. So we will ask you tough questions about your project and have you articulate to us what it is that you're doing. Again, you would have worked with Jennifer and myself long enough that you should do very well in this interview. But inevitably, what we find is that even though we've worked with you, there are things that you say in that interview that you didn't tell us, and it's not in your application. And all of a sudden, the people on the committee are going, oh my God, this just makes you that much better. It should be there. So the whole purpose of this is to give you one last chance to take your application and refine it one more time. So from my next deadline is September 15th. So let's say you did your interviews sometime late August, September 11th. I return your application as soon as your interview is done, and you have from that date until September 25th to get me your final application. During that time period, I'm working with the committee who served on your interview panel, and we're putting together an endorsement to say, why do we think that you're the best candidate? How did you do in your interview, and so forth. So I have until October 13th to submit all of your applications to Fulbright. So that's kind of our timeline. But again, for you, the timelines you need to keep in your mind is August 15th and September 25th. After it leaves our hands, it then goes to the national screening committees, and they meet all over the country between November and December. The people that are looking at your applications are going to be primarily faculty members or former Fulbrighters that are very familiar with the country that you're applying to. And so that's our first hurdle, is convincing, well, actually our second hurdle. You have to convince us that you're an awesome candidate so that we can say that in the final submission. Then we have to convince the national committees that you're awesome. If they select you, then they send your file to the host country. So between January and as late as May, the host countries are reviewing your applications and determining who are the final candidates to get selected. And then March through June, your notifications are coming through. Sabrina, do you want to say anything about your interview?
My interviews actually went pretty well. I find, of course, there are common interview questions that you should go over and phrase and figure out how to phrase better or approach. But other than that, I feel like if you're just yourself and you show that you're comfortable and you openly express your passion for your research as well as your interest for the country, you're going to do great and you'll make a great impression on whoever is interviewing you, whether it's people from the host country, people from the US, or the school, I guess the school preparation interview that Gladys has mentioned.
And Jennifer has served on the interview committee also. Do you want to say anything about that experience?
So as Gladys mentioned, even though I work with you guys on your essays, sometimes you say things in the interview and I'm like, this did not come up in the last 3 months. So one thing that also happens is the feedback, even when you have a very strong application, the committee gives you feedback. And one of the things we do in that kind of period between your interview and Gladys' second deadline is we work on making your essay even better, right? We kind of get that feedback from outsiders. Having been on the committees, it's definitely a really interesting process, and everybody's kind of really committed to helping you be the best applicant you can. And really helping put forward a competitive application. So it can be a little intimidating, but it's also designed to kind of really strengthen you as an applicant, and then strengthen that application. So then, because not all countries interview, so this may be your one interview, your one chance to kind of really bring that to the table.
Thank you. Okay, so as I said, we are very proud of our students that have gone to the host countries. Here is a list of our students that have been abroad. Some have already gone on and they're in their PhD programs. Others are there right now, like Sabrina and Russell. Both of them chose to stay in their host countries. And again, I think it says a lot about the experience as a Fulbrighter and how committed you are to doing the project that you proposed, that these young ladies chose to stay there. Every student that has gone has come back talking about how transformative this experience is. They really have embraced the host country that they're in. They love the experience. They are much more prepared for their graduate opportunities. Jawanza, this person who went to Vietnam, he ended up staying there. I think he writes for a newspaper. And so he's loved that experience. Fong taught English in Germany, and it also, again, was very transformative for him. He has applied for other very prestigious awards, and having a Fulbright under his belt has opened up a lot of opportunities. As you heard from Sabrina, she is now at in Australia with an amazing experience that's going to make her that much more competitive when she wants to go for her PhD. Julianne and Travis both applied to Fulbright and also graduate school. Graduate schools, probably, I would say 99% of them, if you say, you've admitted me, I've also had this opportunity to go to Fulbright, will you hold my spot? They're gonna say yes. Fulbright is that prestigious that they want you to do this. So both Julianne and Travis told their universities, I'm gonna go do this experience. It's gonna prepare me that much better to come in and do my research. And they were very successful at it. David, again, he taught English in Malaysia and had an amazing experience. So these are people that you can reach out to. They're our ambassadors. They believe in the program and will be available to answer questions for you. So do use them. As I said, I am available to work with students. My availability right now is really tight, so I won't be seeing students until the middle of June, but you can use this Calendly link here and schedule an appointment. Jennifer also gets very busy, and I'll let her tell you how busy she gets. So using her link, you can make appointments there. Jennifer, you want to say a few words?
Sure. So I also, there have been a couple of questions in the chat box.
Okay.
So one is, are copies of the slides and the recording going to be available after?
Yes, we will send those out to you guys.
Okay. And then the other one is more complicated, which is, can you get funding from other scholarships or fellowships if you're a Fulbright scholar?
That one, I think while you're on your Fulbright, you can't. But once you've completed it, you can, I think they also put that in the agreement that you signed for your Fulbright, that you can't apply for other scholarships. But Gladys would probably be able to answer that better.
So again, Julianne and Travis are great examples. They applied to, as I said, graduate school. They also both applied to the NSF Graduate Research Fellowship Program, and this is a highly prestigious award that funds their graduate studies. So when they got the Fulbright, they were able to tell both of those programs, hold my money or my admission for a year while I go do Fulbright. So it depends. Certain awards you can just say, I'll be back and please hold it for me. But again, like Sabrina said, while you're on Fulbright, you can't be applying for other things. They're paying you to go do the project that you proposed in your application.
I think there may be some countries that in their country description say they've got like, oh, you can apply for extra funding if you want language classes.
Yes.
And that's kind of part of Fulbright. So, and then to circle back to what Gladys asked me initially, yes, so myself and Jay get very busy. We are, like Gladys, we're staff, so we're here over the summer. So you can make appointments with us. You just go to that link and you can kind of log in and make an appointment. Sometimes our appointment system is cranky. So if you're not able to get in, you can always shoot me an email and I'll help you troubleshoot. Right now, we have appointments up through the end of finals week. We haven't switched over to our summer schedules yet. So, but those of you who are going to be working on this over summer, you can still work with us. And one advantage of everything being remote is you do not have to be in Riverside to work with us, which has not always been the case in previous years. So this year you can be in Australia as long as you haven't graduated.
Yes, yes. Let's see. So steps to applying. In the chat, can you guys tell me if you've already selected a country or if you're still shopping around? So just put it in there. One of the first screens that you should visit is the types of awards on Fulbright. Here you can look at either the study and research ones or English teaching, and it will tell you what's available, what countries and so forth. So that's one of the most important things before you come see Jennifer or myself, is to identify, let's say two to three countries. Be focused on, okay, I want to go to, I see somebody put in France. I want to go to France. I want you to look at the profile for France and make sure that it's something that fits your profile. Some countries are very specific about, we only want to work with students who just graduated, or we want students who are in a master's or a PhD program. We want high-level proficiency in our language, or there's other components, or I want you to do this type of research. If that's not your expertise, then we need to have you look at another country. So that's the important piece. I see South Korea, France, South Korea. Okay, so once you look for the countries, look at the profile. And the other piece is statistics. Let me try and share my screen once again with you.
While you're doing that. So the statistics can be really useful, and that's why Gladys is pulling them up. And they can help you kind of think flexibly. So let's say you want to go to the UK. Don't go to London. The statistics are not good. But like 4 people want to go to Northumbria. So those statistics can be really helpful, you know, if you have some flexibility in where you want to go, right? There's lots of places that speak French, for example. So if that's what you're interested in, you might be able to kind of look at some stuff. And Gladys is really good at like helping you navigate that.
So let's say you want to do study research. A really nice thing about this is that it asks you, how did it go? Let's say you're interested in the STEM fields. It tells you the schools that have STEM programs. So you can look through here. English teaching. So English teaching, the entire country is available to you. I mean, the entire world is available to you. So if you wanted to do this, one of the things that makes it very easy for you is to, let's say you want to do Asia. Right here, at a glance, you can see all of these countries that are looking for students to come teach English. You can see the number of awards. Indonesia, 35 awards. That's pretty good. Versus Cambodia that only has 2 awards. The other thing you want to look at is placement type. Indonesia has 35 awards to work with secondary children. Maybe you don't like secondary. This is high school. Maybe you only want to work with kindergarten through 9th grade. That's primary schools. Or maybe you only want to work at a university. You need to look at these categories to make sure that you have the skill sets and the interest in working with that student population. Placement. Another thing about these countries is that they might be specific. Hong Kong is keeping you in Hong Kong. Indonesia, they will accept you for the program, but you don't have a choice as to where they send you. So it might be a rural area, it might be a big city. So that's another thing that you have to be very comfortable with, and in part of your essays, be able to demonstrate that you would be okay if they put you in a very rural village where you don't have the amenities that you're used to here in the United States. So, and for yourself, you need to be able to indicate that and also be comfortable enough with knowing that you could be placed in some place where you're going to be uncomfortable. Also, your commitment time. You can see here, Hong Kong is expecting you to be full-time 40 hours, whereas Indonesia, they're looking for 25 hours. Fulbright is funding you to be there full-time. So if you're going to be teaching for 25 hours, they want to know what else are you going to do for the next 20 hours. And that's where your in-country immersement project idea comes into play. So you want to talk about what would you be doing outside of those 25 hours to immerse yourself in that host country. Also here, you can see whether they require language. So if you decide, for example, I think we had a couple people that said South Korea was their interest. Let's go there. Okay, so here's another view that you can have. So if you're interested in teaching, they have 20 teaching opportunities. You could do it at elementary level, or they have 60 opportunities at a secondary level. So I would go in there and say, okay, what are they looking for? So they're looking for well-rounded graduating seniors or recent graduates. So that would be perfect for most of you guys under the age of 30. And have your degree in place by the time you go. You have to be fluent in English because again, you're teaching English. They're accepting people who have bachelor's and master's degrees. They recommend that you know a little bit of the language. Most of these countries are going to expect you to have like a tourist type of knowledge of the language. So you want to talk about how you're preparing yourself for that. Maybe you take Korean classes, or maybe you immerse yourself in the Korean community and you're volunteering with people of that origin and you're learning the language that way. That's something you can talk about. So again, this gives you all the information. You're going to be placed in elementary schools. You're primarily going to teach the 3rd grade to 6th grade. So again, you can see that they're giving you all these descriptions of what kind of profile you should have to be a good candidate for this. So let's say that you fit everything they're looking for and you're very much interested in applying to teach in Korea. The next thing that I ask you to do is go to the statistics page. And here, we're going to look at English teaching. You're going to say that you want Southeast Asia. Okay, so this again shows you for the last 3 years how many applicants they received, how many awards were given, and so it'll give you a sense of, you know, how competitive is this? Do I have a really good chance? So you should do this for either the research or the language programs. Are there any questions over this? Jennifer, do you want to say anything about how we get students to identify the countries they want to go to?
I mainly send them to you. But I also want to stress fit. So when Sabrina applied to Australia, there weren't a whole lot of, you know, they don't have a large number of study awards, I don't think. Did they? Did they, Sabrina? I don't think they did.
No, they didn't. I think most of the ones that they offered were for Australians to the US or maybe a postdoc position for a couple of months, but there was only one for that was allowed for graduate students and only for 10 months.
But Sabrina's research, she studies venomous arthropods. Did I get it right?
Yes.
I kept getting it wrong when we were working together. And especially for Australia, where they have venomous everything, and she'd made these really good connections through her professor, she got the award, right? So definitely the statistics are important, but also fit is really important, right? Because they have to give it to somebody, and maybe you want to study the thing that their country is most known for. Venomous, I think they have the only venomous mammal. I learned that working with Sabrina.
Also, I think the first thing that you can do, again, if you already have a PI and if you're already conducting research, you could just talk to your PI and say, who's available or who do you know would be really good to work with? Because again, your PIs have to go to conferences. They've seen other people's, like other PIs research. They know what's going on. And if you're working with them, they're probably working in a field of your interest. So you can go up to them and say, who do you know who's studying this or is carrying out research that I would be interested in? And then you could focus in, that is not within the US. And then you can focus in on that professor, look at their research, look at their publications, and then reach out to them rather than looking for a specific country. You could look for a person, if that helps.
And Sabrina,
Go ahead.
Sabrina has a really good point. Your professors are, academia, especially subspecialties, are very small universes. So if you have a professor that you work with that you think, you know, they probably know someone that is doing what you're interested in. I've been out of academia as faculty for a while, but I still know people who do things in various locations that if I had somebody who was interested in studying golden age science fiction, I'd be like, I know who you should talk to in these 5 countries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, I mentioned earlier, we have Fulbrighters that have graduated from UCR, but you also have the entire population of Fulbrighters. So on the Fulbright website, in the upper right corner, there's a section where you can find alumni. And there's actually specific Fulbright ambassadors that you can look through. And let's say somebody has participated in Fulbright in Korea. They were there for an entire year. And Sabrina did this with other people where she reached out to people from Australia and said, hey, can I talk to you a little bit about the history, the culture, What else should I know as a potential candidate going there? Because during our interview, we will ask you, what are current events that are happening in this country? Are you aware that there's possibly political turmoil, or are you aware that there is elections coming up, and how does that impact your project? So you need to be able to answer those questions and say, I know exactly what I'm getting into. So those ambassadors are a good resource, your faculty, friends, colleagues. Just start letting people know that you're very much interested in this particular country. One thing that Sabrina did was that she tried to relate her interests with things that are in Australia. Like, you can do something. I had one student who talked about how he loved to hike, and he was going to be in Germany. So he had the Alps that he was going to go to, and he was going to connect with people doing that. So there's lots of ways where you can demonstrate that you have a strong passion for this country and how you're making that connection. We have about 5 minutes. I am going to share this presentation. We didn't go through all these pieces, but Jennifer has done a fabulous job working with me for years, in that we have some pointers for you to think about, how will you answer your personal statement? What questions should you be asking yourself? Some brainstorming questions. So we'll send this out so you can start working on it. The other thing is, if you're truly interested in doing this, invest your time. Write these essays. Whether you get it or not, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. And these essays can be tweaked for grad school or for other award opportunities, because many of the things that they're asking you, you will be asked of in other opportunities. So don't see it as, oh my gosh, I'm having to put all this time into it and I'm not sure. Be okay with being insecure about this. I think that everyone who's ever applied has doubted themselves, and that's natural. But just keep going. You're going to, again, learn a lot about yourself. Sabrina, can I have you say some things about how much time you put into your application, what you learned from the whole experience by the time you were done?
Well, in regards to the lack of confidence, the Australian Fulbright Commission, I think within February, had us have like a whole meeting or a whole conference in which American Fulbrighters and Australian Fulbrighters get to interact and make connections with each other. And while there, we've all noticed, everyone, that we all have imposter syndrome. We all are like, what am I doing here? I don't deserve this. I don't know what I'm doing. So even other Fulbrighters, and it wasn't just limited to recent graduates like me, it was professors, postdocs as well. We're all questioning and have a large feeling of imposter syndrome. So don't ever have that stop you. Think, oh, I don't deserve it. Just do it, because you'll be surprised at what you find or what happens. And when writing up my application, again, what Jennifer said, I probably maxed out on the number of drafts that she's received from me. It took me quite a while, and I utilized Gladis and Jennifer a lot. They helped me a lot in structuring my essay so that it made me a very strong applicant. I wouldn't have gotten the Fulbright without them. And it took me I think I started within the beginning of summer, or right before summer hit, May, and it took me the whole summer to finally perfect and construct my application.
And can you talk a little bit about your interview? You had a couple of faculty members who were pretty helpful in giving you some feedback.
Yeah, my interviews went fairly well. I think it's because I showed a strong passion for my research and for the topic into the field that I was getting myself into. But also I noticed when talking to them, they were putting a focus on how are you going to deal with being away from home. And I think that's something that you should also keep in mind, because they're not going to though knowing what you're going to do, like research-wise or project-wise, is awesome, but they want to make sure that you could be able to sit well in the country, not get homesick, and feel isolated. So it's good to mention like some hobbies that you're planning on doing, and again, other clubs or organizations that you plan on putting yourself into. I also had another interview with the Australian Fulbright Commission, and that was another thing that they emphasized too, I believe, was how are you going to get yourself involved in the country, and not only just for being an ambassador, but also for your own mental health and well-being.
Can you say a little bit about the community you've built? And again, I think it's very amazing and that you decided to stay when this whole COVID thing happened.
I found out here that I found it very easy to make friends. I think on the first day I arrived, I already got myself involved in a big group of friends, and it's really fun sharing because I am not only from Southern California, but I also have a bit of a Latin background to talk to them about all of the Latin songs and how it's not just limited to Shakira. And then show them all like Latin dances that I've learned, and then also exchange certain slang. Like they like for breakfast, they like to say brekkie. And they're like, what do you have short for breakfast? And I'm like, breakfast. So it's really cute, just and really cool, just showing each other our cultures and how and what makes each other unique.
Whoa. Oh yeah, so like I said, Jennifer and I are here all summer. We look forward to working with you guys. I basically invest in you what you invest in yourself. So if you start early and you're putting in a lot of time, I'm gonna put that time into it. If you're showing up a week before the deadline, your chances are very, very thin, and maybe you can pull it off and surprise us, but I haven't seen that yet. So if you're serious about this, go to the website, find the countries you're interested in. When you make an appointment with me, I want you to come with your resume and either a draft of how you're going to answer these questions. We're giving you a lot of information in this PowerPoint on how to get started with your essays. But at the very minimum, bullet points. Why is it that you're a good candidate? How would you answer your personal statement? How are you crafting your statement of grant purpose? For teaching, tell me, what experiences do you have? What leadership experiences? How would you teach? What do you know about teaching? If you've ever been a tutor, that's going to be an outstanding way for you to sell yourself as having been trained already to do teaching. We also have a contact in Extension Center who teaches people how to teach English. So we can put you in touch with her so that you can start learning some of the pedagogy of teaching approaches for second languages. You might have some great ideas. Last year, we had a young lady who made it into a finalist in Korea, and she was talking about bringing K-pop into the whole process of teaching. So sometimes it's a unique approach that you might take, and we can work with that. So we're here to be your idea bouncer and just crafting it and refining it. So we look forward to talking to you guys. If you have questions, we'll be here for another 5 minutes. And if not, you have our contact information, start making your appointments, and we hope to see you. Jennifer, do you have any parting words?
I think Gladys has pretty much covered everything, but yeah, Sabrina really did the lion's share of the work, right? So that's one of the reasons she started as early as she did, is she really, really put the time in, put the effort in. Gladys and I are there to help you, but the earlier you start, the more help we can give you. And It can be a long process, but as Gladys has pointed out, I think at the end you learn a lot about kind of yourself and why you want to study what you want to study or do what you want to do. And you do not have to be wanting to be a teacher to do the teaching. You just have to make a coherent case for why that would be a good fit for you. So we look forward to working with you guys. I always like working with Fulbright because every country is different. So it's always new and interesting.
Yes, that's for sure. I don't know if I emphasize that, but yes, every country is different. So you need to go in and see what are they asking for and is it a good fit for you? Because you want to put work into this and have us tell you, you know, there's only 2 awards and you're competing against people that have a master's and a PhD or getting their PhDs. Chances are very slim. So do your homework in that regard. Make connections, start talking to people. The more people that you talk to, the other thing that I always tell students that I work with is you have to build a team. You're not going to win any award by yourself. So start building that team and getting people to support you. And even if they're just giving you that push to say, you can do this, you can do this. You need that person there because it is a lot of work and you have to be committed to putting the time into it. And sometimes you might be taking summer classes and you might have tests that are about the same time as our deadlines. You have to balance that out and do time management. And that's really important because if you do go abroad, you have to be a person who is very good at managing your time because there's lots of expectations. Besides the commitments that you're making as to whether you're going to do research or you're going to teach, you have to immerse yourself with the community. Fulbright, depending on what country, some of them have lots of opportunities where you can engage. Sabrina talked about meeting with some of the Fulbrighters. One of our students who was in Germany actually was able to attend a Fulbright conference at the United Nations or NATO. And she got to meet with a lot of ambassadors and Fulbrighters from all over Europe. So it could be really exciting, but again, she had to balance that with the research project she was doing and make sure that she was still meeting those expectations. Because again, you're a representative of the United States. You want to show the very best that you are when you're abroad. So thank you, everyone. We'll be sending this out in the next couple of days.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to book an appointment and I do also work.
Uh-huh.
Which one of us are you trying to book an appointment with? I think it was Arturo. Arturo, we may have lost you.
Oh, am I back? Oh.
Yes, there you go.
Yes, yeah, I'm multitasking. Yeah, I'm just trying to book an appointment. If that's okay, yeah.
Which, with Gladys or with my office? This is Jennifer. Gladys is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm open to either or is what I'm saying. I guess it's more of an availability question. Or I'm not sure who, I don't know. I'm just trying to get started, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So, I guess whoever has his availability on Monday. Sorry if I'm being indirect. I'm not trying to, I'm just trying to jump on this as you guys are saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Right now, I am completely booked probably until like the middle of June, second week of June. So if you go to that link that I have, you can see my availability and just schedule yourself up to that point. Also, that would give a little bit of time to start looking at the Fulbright website, kind of identifying which award you want. And like I said, crafting, how would you approach this application so that when we meet, it makes it good of a
Okay. So as far as what I see on your calendar, Gladys, looks like I see the 26th. Is that right?
Yeah.
Am I looking at this wrong?
Possibly.
Okay.
People have already started booking.
Okay. So 26. Okay. Okay. Are you available sooner, Jennifer?
Potentially. So the end of spring quarter is basically crazy for both of us.
Oh, okay.
And especially if you have an additional kind of constraint. So I tell you what, how about, because my colleague and I have weird schedules right now, why don't you send me an email and we'll
Sure.
see if we can't figure out kind of,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
because he
Okay.
works, I work 8 to 5 and he works 10 to 7. So we do appointments at weird times. So
Okay.
if you I think my email was in the slide, but let me
see.
send it to you as well.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
It may still be the end of June, which for Fulbright, end of June is still, you're still doing fine. We just,
Okay.
every year we have people who show up in September and we're like, guys. So
Okay.
end of June is still plenty of time
Okay.
to write the essays. We just, getting
Okay.
on it is good.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I said, there's plenty of other slides here that are guiding you on how to approach those essays. So it would benefit you and also us when you come to the appointment if you've already kind of started crafting it based on the information.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I've been working on it, but yeah, if anything, it's an availability thing, like what Jennifer's talking about too. Shoot. Okay. I guess I'll send you an email, Jennifer.
Okay.
And then worst comes to worst, I'll schedule something with Gladys too, and we'll see what works. Wait, could I have both appointments? Or do I have to like continually work with one person the whole way?
Nope, Gladys and I work together. So Gladys does the whole package. She does helping you pick the country, I and my colleague, we just focus on the essays. So, I mean, I will try